If you want to fully customize your own project management solution, Airtable is a great option for you to consider. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down how you can build your own project management workflow inside of Airtable, and I'm going to be diving into some more advanced techniques that we see with our clients that have more robust requirements for their project management workflows. So if learning more about how Airtable can solve your project management woes is of interest to you, stick around and let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Gareth and this is Gap Consulting. It's our mission here to help you unlock the full potential of no-code tools, and Airtable is one of our favorite no-code tools in 2025. Now, before we get into the heart of the video and dive into all the project management stuff, I first want to invite you to join me for some templates. If you're kind of new to Airtable, or if you've been using it for a while but you could use some guidance, my team has put together 5 templates that we offer to you completely free, along with videos that will help you understand the templates, incorporate them into your workflows, etc. So if you want to grab those, and yes, there is a very elementary or early starting project management template there. So if you want to grab them, just sign up at gapconsulting.io/templates. But without further ado, let's hop on into my screen. We're going to be building this from scratch. I do love using the AI co-builder in Airtable, but for us here today, I'm going to be doing it from scratch, and we are going to just create a new database right here. Now, I invite you to follow along with me. If you have your own Airtable, feel free to open it up and follow these same steps that I'm working on here. Now, we have to first set up our tables, and I want to get started with projects here. So let's find that, rename it here, and this will be projects. So everything that we do in our project management workflow is going to kind of roll up to this top level. I don't need these other fields here, so I'm going to get rid of these, and then time for our next table. Now we're going to go with line items, and this will make some more sense once we're actually building and working this solution out. So again, I'm going to delete those extra fields. These are the fields that start every time we build a new table. Next, I'm going to list out services. And so here in services, these are the different things that we will do inside of our organization, the different types of services that we offer. And then we're going to also go with tasks here. And these are the things that we have to do that are associated with every line item. This will make more sense when we start linking everything up. But obviously a task, every time that we're doing a new project or a part of a project, there will be specific tasks associated with that. And now here's for one of my big, more advanced techniques here. I like to do a task template table. So I'm going to call this tasks template. And the reason for this, can we build automations in Airtable? Yes, absolutely. And they're quite good. But if we're using a tasks template table, and when our automation creates new tasks for a new project, then if we have all of our template stuff built up here, all we have to do is look for that template and then move it on over and create new tasks inside of our new projects. Now, if we don't have a template table like this, that means every time we make an adjustment to our business, we have to go into the automation or we have to go into the actual workflow itself to update that information for whatever our new tasks are. And so I really like to use this more advanced feature here. And if this seems a little bit advanced, it is a little advanced, but we're going to go step by step here, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can use this template to create your new tasks inside of your database and your workflows. So let's get started here. I'm going to start by filling out some basic information. We're going to flip into projects, and let's just say we've got project 1, and I'm not even going to worry about projects 2 and 3 right now. We're going to roll everything up to this top level. And let's say we've got a bunch of different services. I'm going to call this service 1 because I'm completely uncreative, service 2, and service 3. Now, services are going to link to our line items. So let's say, for example, we took on a new project and we sold a service 1 and we sold 2 service 2s, just as an example. Well, we can roll that into the line item, and then the line item kind of rolls back up to the project, and it looks like this. So from the line items here, let's build a link to projects. This is going to be a link to our projects table, and only one project per line item. And now we're going to do the same thing with services. So I'll say service, and here we're going to build a link to services. Again, only one of these per record. So imagine on project 1, it's going to look like this. Let's say we sold a couple services, and I'm just going to do 2 different ones. So we'll say we sold service 1 and we sold service 2 as well. both of these are part of the bigger project, project 1. And we can also bring out a quantity here. So here we go, quantity, and this can be a number field. And this is going to help us understand how many of something we're selling. And it works kind of just like a line item does, right? So we can easily say here, look, we sold 2 of service 2, we sold 1 of service 1, and it's rolling up to the projects here. Now, before we move on, let's first bring in our name here. I'm going to use a formula field type, and I will concatenate or string together the projects with the services. And I'm going to use some commas in between with a little dash, and oops, let's close out that parenthesis, and we're good. And I like doing this whenever I have a table like this, where I have 2 different linked relationships. This is allowing me to identify what this line item is. This is service 1 for project 1. It has all the information I need in the name of the line item record itself. Okay, so far so good. We've got our project here at the top level. It has a couple of line items, right? We drill into the line items, we see this, and of course you'd probably want to group by projects here. We can see the different services that we sold here and what the quantity is. And then of course we have our services, and we can always play with our services. We could bring in things like the price of the service, who delivers that service, because maybe we have specific services that are only delivered by team member 1 or team member 2, and so we could list all of that out here. But now it's time to get into the tasks. And this is really where a lot of project management software falls apart. Not able to create tasks, because when you create a task, this is how you're able to say how close you are to completing a project, right? When you're 100% done with all the tasks assigned to a project, or in this case, a service or a line item, then and only then are we going to be at a position where we say, this is done. We've completed this thing. So let's imagine what a task template might look like. So over here, this is where we could list out the different tasks. But before we get to that, let's list and connect this to our services, right? So I'm going to build a linked relation to services, because the tasks in the task template, they are going to relate to a service. So let's suppose that we're going to start here with service 1. And we might have a few different tasks for this, and we can just name them. Again, for sake of simplicity, I'm just going to keep it simple. Task 1, Task 2, and Task 3 are all going to be related to Service 1. Now, we can bring in a lot more information here, like how many more days until this is due. Like maybe, in general, this Task 3 takes a week. So we could add that here, and it could be part of the calculation that goes into creating our tasks. This is a little bit deeper than I want to get in this particular video, but understand that in the tasks template, high level, what we're doing is we're saying these are the tasks that are associated with a particular service. Let's group by that service to make it easier to see. And I'm going to add a new record here to service 2, and we can build out a couple of tasks for this. So I'm going to go with task 4, and I'm going to go with task 5. Now, there's a lot more that we could bring in here, right? Maybe you have specific documents. You could bring in attachment fields. Maybe you have notes that always pertain to task 4. Let me use this very example, in fact. I'll use a long text field for notes, and we'll just drop in some sample text. Note that I only have this for task 4. This is important. You'll see this when we build the automation itself. Now, we also might want to do an order here, so we can use numbers. And this is going to allow us to put things in the proper order. Of course, in our case, they're already in order, but I could say 1, 2, and 3. And down here, this is 1 and 2. So this order pertains to the tasks within the service. So tasks 4 and 5 go in this order. If I wanted to flip that around, I could go 2, 1, and then we could sort this by order. And you can see now that task 5 is before task 4. Okay, now we can also do a lot more depth here. We can put in dependencies. We can say task 4 can only happen after task 5 has been created or completed. Lots of different things, lots of layers of complexity we can add. For those more advanced needs, I would suggest checking out our channel. Obviously, we've done a lot of videos on this, and if you can't find the answer you're looking for, we do have consultants available who can work with you on an hourly basis to help you get your particular management, your workflow management all set up. But before we move on, let's do one more thing here inside of our tasks template, and I want to have a status for these. And I want to use a single select field here. And the reason for this is because usually what we see inside of task templates like this is over time, you might phase a task out and you might not want to include it anymore. So if we mark these things as active, then what we're basically saying is when our automation runs, we're going to look for all those active tasks in the template. Those are the ones that we're going to create inside of our management workflow system, right? So these are just that. They're just templated tasks. And the beauty of this is that our management can easily come in and just add new tasks here, deactivate certain tasks. They can add notes if maybe every time task 1 is completed, it's getting done incorrectly or incomplete. Well, we can come in and drop in notes to make sure our team understands everything. This is a great place for you to get organized with your standard operating procedures. So we've put together our task template, and what we want to do is bring in those tasks, automatically create them based on a couple of things. When we sell a new service, then we want to look at the quantity of that service. How many did we sell over here in line items? We sold 2 service 2s and 1 service 1. So we want to create tasks for these things. I want to create all 3 of these tasks for service 1, and then I want to create these 2 tasks 2 times each because I sold 2 service 2s. Understand how this is working, right? So this is a little bit more advanced, a lot going on for this automation. But let's set up our tasks table appropriately. Number 1, we need to make sure that we've linked it to line items. We need to know what is this task pertaining to. In this case, that's going to be line items. So let's get it over there, linked to line items. And I will toggle off multiple records because every task is associated with one particular line item. The end. Okay. So for example, we might look at this and say project 1, service 1. We know that there's going to be 3 tasks here. So let's go ahead and build those out manually. And then after we're done with that, we'll build the automation to create the tasks for service 2, right? So now we know that we're going to need to actually put those tasks together. And so all of those fields that we have over here, whatever you've included here that you want to bring into your actual task, do so. We don't really need this status field of active or inactive. This pertains to the template. We probably want to bring in the order of the task. We definitely want to bring in the name and the notes. So let's do that. Over here in tasks, we already have the name. I'll create a notes field and just make sure you're using the same type of field. So in my case, I had a long text field in my template. So I'm going to use a long text field here again. And then the next piece we're going to bring in is order. So I'll bring in the order. I'll use a number field again, just like we did last time, and we'll create that field. Now, basically what we want to have happen is we want to search when we have a new line item right here. Then we want to search based on the quantity. We're going to repeat this automation every time depending on what the quantity is. So for 1, we're only going to do it 1 time. And we want to look over at service 1 in the task template here, find all the service 1s in order, bring in those tasks 1, 2, and 3. And I'm just going to copy and paste for now. And then we want to do that for the name, and we also want to do it for the order. This is the power of automation right here, folks, because we only have to build it 1 time. And if we build it properly, in the future, all we have to do, update the task template, and then those tasks will be automatically created when we get a new line item. So let's jump into the automation and start building. What is going to trigger this thing? We are going to say when a record matches conditions, when there is a new line item in our line item table, we have to make sure that a few things are true. Number 1, it has to have a service, right? If the service is empty, then we can't do this. We don't know what tasks we're creating. So service is not empty. Next, we want to make sure that there's a project assigned to it. Project is not empty. This way we can make sure this is a true line item that was created. And lastly, we want to make sure that there is a quantity here. And let's say that the quantity is greater than or equal to the number 1. So if we have 0 as a quantity, that's not going to count, right? We're not going to create tasks for that. Now, lastly, we want to also make sure that we haven't already created new tasks for this. So let's look here and we'll say one more thing. The tasks, not the tasks template, but tasks is empty. If tasks has something, we've already created tasks. We don't want this automation to fire. Let's choose a record. And we're going to only find one record matches these conditions because we already created tasks for service number 1. So let's go here. Now, what are we going to do? Well, we need to first find all of the tasks that are active in our task template that pertain to this service. So let's do that. This is going to be a find function. We're going to find records. and we're going to find them in the tasks template table that meet conditions. Those conditions are the status must be active, number 1. And number 2, we are going to say that the service must match whatever service triggered this automation, right? So we're going to go dynamic here, and we'll come in and we will say from the triggering event, scroll on down here, find this service. Let's use that record ID. So let's do a quick search here and note that we can limit the record maximum. We're never going to find 1,000. We don't have that many, but do be aware of this when you're building your automation. If you have so many different tasks, let's go ahead and test the action. Now we know we're looking for service 2. So we should find, and we found 2 different tasks, 4 and 5, because they are related to service 2 and they are active. It's exactly what we expected to find. Now we need to create those tasks based on what we found. And in a perfect world, what we would do is look up how many different quantities did we sell, and then we would repeat this function. But if we go here, you'll see that we have the option for a repeating group, which runs the actions every time in a list. But the problem here is that we are not able to tell it, hey, look at that quantity. So if we were to build this repeating column here, this repeating group, when we look at the input list, what we want to focus on is the quantity that we sold here, but that's not exactly how this element is set up to operate. So unfortunately for us here, we cannot build that repeating element here. However, if you are working in an interface, what you can do then is create a button and have the button be the trigger to your automation. You can push the button 2 times and automatically create that list of tasks. So for our purposes here, we're going to only create the tasks 1 time based on the quantity. This could also be done, of course, in a script. This would be a little bit more advanced as well, but you might be able to get some help using AI to write that script for you so that you could just drop a little script snip in here and automatically do that. But for our purposes here, let's round it out. And rather than repeating this, we're just going to create the tasks the 1 time. So instead of trying to repeat this group for a certain number of quantity, what we're going to do is select the list that we found back here. And what this is going to tell us is we're going to say, use this as a list. And now this repeating group is going to repeat any action that we put in here. It's going to perform that action for every record that it found in this step right here. Now, this is the secret sauce. We know that we found 2 different tasks in the task template. So we will be repeating this step twice for those different tasks, right? So we'll do it once per task that we found in the template. Now, what do we want to do? We want to create a record, and we're going to create that record in our tasks table, right? So we searched for these on the template table, and for each one that we find, we're going to repeat this group and create a task in the tasks table. And now for mapping those fields. So we have a name field in the tasks. Well, it's going to be the same as the name field in the template. So notice that we can use the current item here, and then we can drill in and bring in the name of the current item that's being iterated on in this group. Next, we'll skip line items because this already exists. But if we have notes, we want to map those notes here as well. So same thing here, current item, and then we map to the notes from the template. And then lastly, we have our order, and we'll toggle this on to be dynamic. We will find the order of the task template, so current item, and scroll down, and we will plug in order. Now, last piece here is we need to actually connect that task to the line item itself. So we will say line items. Now, remember, this line item is in fact the record that triggered the automation. So what we will plug in here is not the current item, because every time we perform the creation of a task, it's going to link to the line item that started it all. So we will pull from record matching conditions. This is the trigger in our automation, and I'm going to just plug in that record ID. So these 3 components right here came from the task template. This final component is the record in the line items that triggered the automation to begin with. Let's turn our automation on. Of course, I would recommend that you name it. And let's flip into our data now, and we will delete our quantity and we'll bring a quantity back in. And this now means that we will meet the criteria for our automation. And you can just see our automation worked in the background and created task 4 and task 5. And if we go over here, we will even see that the sample text came through for task 4. And remember, I even put in right here, it's mapping perfectly, and we're also bringing in the order. So if we were to group these or sort these by order, we'll see them in the right order. We can group these by the line items. Our tasks are being automatically created now based on our template. And this is very, very dynamic, very flexible for you. All you have to do is come in and make some changes to your task template anytime you change your SOPs. And just like that, you will automatically create new tasks for any new line items to your projects. I know we went really quickly in this video. There's a lot to cover here. This is a more advanced topic, but I hope you got a ton of value from it. If you need more help, feel free to swing by our website. And if you got value from the video in and of itself, we would love it if you could give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, keep on building.